Welcome back, dear listeners, to another soothing journey back in time. As you settle in for a restful slumber, I invite you to pause for a moment and leave a comment sharing where in the world you're joining us from and what time of day it is for you right now. It's always a delight to see the global reach of our little community of history enthusiasts and insomniacs. And if you're new here and find yourself enjoying these calm, meandering tales from yesteryear, we'd be ever so grateful if you'd consider hitting that subscribe button. Now, let's gently wade into tonight's topic, shall we? Picture, if you will, a bustling medieval European town. The cobblestone streets echo with the clatter of horse hooves and the shouts of merchants peddling their wares. But amidst the vibrant tapestry of sights and sounds, there's an undercurrent that might seem a bit, well, unsavory to our modern sensibilities. Yes, tonight we'll be delving into the oft-maligned world of medieval hygiene. But fear not, dear listeners, for while some of the practices we'll uncover may indeed seem nightmarish through the lens of contemporary standards, our goal is not to pass judgment or elicit disgust. Rather, we'll seek to understand how these customs evolved over time as people grappled with the challenges of cleanliness using the knowledge and resources available to them. So let's approach this, not with a wrinkled nose, but with an open mind and a dash of empathy for our medieval forebears. As we embark on this journey through the annals of historical hygiene, we'll traipse through the muck-filled streets dodging chamber pots, peek behind the curtain of the public bathhouse, recoil at the lice-ridden coifs of nobility, and perhaps even develop a newfound appreciation for the humble bar of soap. But more than just a highlight reel of hygienic horrors, we'll meet a colourful cast of characters along the way, from the smelly legacy of Queen Isabella of Castile to the surprisingly advanced dental practices of barber surgeons. So snuggle up, dear listeners, and let the gentle cadence of medieval history lull you into a peaceful slumber. And if you happen to awaken with a renewed gratitude for your morning shower and toothbrush, well, that's just a bonus. Our story begins, as many medieval tales do, with a distinct lack of understanding about the microscopic world of germs and disease. In an era long before the germ theory of disease took hold, folks had to rely on their own powers of observation and deduction to make sense of the maladies that plagued them. And one conclusion that seemed to crop up time and again was the idea that bad smells, or miasmas, were the root of all illness. It's not hard to see how this belief took hold, especially when one considers the olfactory assault that was the average medieval city. Open sewers gurgled and belched their fetid contents right into the streets, mingling with the dung of livestock and the occasional heap of rotting garbage. Chamber pots were unceremoniously dumped from windows, their contents splattering onto the heads of unfortunate passers-by. The very air was thick with the stench of human and animal waste. But for the average medieval city dweller, this was all just part of the daily sensory landscape. The miasma theory of disease wouldn't be officially put to rest until the late 19th century. So for centuries, people just held their noses and went about their business. Imagine, if you will, the plight of the common peasant navigating these filthy streets. With each step, their bare feet would squelch through the muck, the fetid sludge oozing between their toes. Dodging the contents of chamber pots would become an art form, a daily dance of dexterity. And should they fail to sidestep the falling filth, well, it was just another layer to add to their already pungent aroma. But it wasn't just the streets that were awash in waste. The very rivers that served as the lifeblood of medieval cities were often little more than open sewers themselves. The same waterways that were used for drinking, cooking, and bathing were also the dumping grounds for all manner of human and animal waste. Tanneries and dye works would discharge their noxious chemicals directly into the rivers, turning them a rainbow of unnatural hues. Enter the unsung hero of the medieval era, the washerwoman. Armed with little more than a wooden paddle and a bar of crude soap, These women would wade into the polluted rivers to beat the filth out of clothing and linens. It was backbreaking work, and the constant exposure to contaminated water no doubt took its toll on their health. But in a time when cleanliness was more a luxury than a necessity, their services were in high demand. As the washerwoman toils away on the riverbank, pounding the dirt out of a noblewoman's delicate undergarments, let's take a moment to consider her daily lot in life. Her hands are chapped and raw from the constant exposure to cold water and harsh lye soap. The stench of the river permeates her clothing and hair, a pungent musk that no amount of scrubbing can quite eliminate. And should she pause in her labours to wipe the sweat from her brow, she must take care not to let the grimy river water touch her face, lest she risk contracting any number of waterborne illnesses. But for all the hardships endured by the medieval washerwoman, there were glimmers of progress on the horizon. Slowly but surely, the idea of underground sewers and organised waste removal began to take hold in some of the more forward-thinking cities. In the 12th century London, for example, the aptly named Great Drain was constructed to carry waste away from the city centre. It was a rudimentary system, to be sure, but it marked a crucial first step in the long journey towards modern sanitation. Of course, the washerwoman's lot was not an enviable one, but at least she had regular access to water, polluted though it may be. For the average medieval person, bathing was a far less frequent affair. The prevailing wisdom of the time held that bathing too often could actually be harmful to one's health, as it was thought to remove protective layers of dirt and oil from the skin. As a result, most people made do with a quick splash of water to the face and hands, reserving full-body immersion for special occasions. When one did deign to take a proper bath, it was often more about socializing than getting clean. Public bathhouses were a common fixture in medieval cities, and they served as a gathering place for people from all walks of life. Men and women would soak together in large communal tubs, often while enjoying food, drink, and lively conversation. These bathhouses were more akin to modern-day spas or social clubs than the utilitarian cleaning stations we think of today. But lest you think that a trip to the bathhouse was all good, clean fun, let's take a peek behind the curtain with a noble couple out for a day of leisure. As they disrobe and slip into the steaming water, they're greeted by a sight that would make most modern bathers recoil in horror. The water is murky and opaque, teeming with the sweat, dirt, and dead skin cells of countless previous occupants. The air is thick with steam and the pungent aroma of unwashed bodies. And if one were to look closely, they might even spot the occasional flea or louse swimming lazily by. For our noble couple, however, this is all par for the course. They settle in, letting the warm water soothe their aching muscles as they exchange the latest court gossip with their fellow bathers. But as the heat begins to take its toll, they find themselves growing light-headed and nauseous. You see, in an era when bloodletting was considered a cure-all for most ailments, the combination of hot water and open wounds could often lead to fainting spells or even death. But even if one managed to survive the perils of the bathhouse, there was still the matter of what to do about the inevitable body odour that would follow. Without regular bathing, most medieval folks had to rely on perfumes and scented powders to mask their natural musk. These concoctions were often made from exotic ingredients like musk, ambergris and civet, and were applied liberally to clothing, hair and skin. Of course, not everyone had access to these pricey perfumes. For the common folk, the solution was often to simply embrace their own bodily funk. And in some cases, that funk could be truly legendary. Take, for example, the case of Queen Isabella of Castile, who was said to have bathed only twice in her entire life, once at birth and once on her wedding day. The rest of the time, she relied on a liberal dousing of perfume to keep her royal aroma in check. But while Queen Isabella's smelly legacy may be an extreme example, she was far from alone in her aversion to bathing. Many medieval people subscribed to the belief that water could actually be dangerous to one's health, as it was thought to let disease into the body through the pores of the skin. This fear of water extended to all aspects of hygiene.